Super Mario Odyssey has gotten rave reviews, getting many perfect scores and an overall high critical score. It has already become a classic as Nintendo made key changes to put 3D Mario forward. However, as I'm sure you all know, there are no perfect games. The best games have flaws, and Super Mario Odyssey is no exception to that. As you know, this game revolves around doing specific objectives to obtain Power Moons in this game. There are over 850 objectives. I don't know specifically, I believe 886 different objectives to get Power Moons. And some of these objectives, well, let's say they're not fun, alright? They're the opposite of fun. SpongeBob won't be singing a fun song to any of these picks. F is for friends who... Okay. Would also like to reiterate that these are facts and not based on opinions. This will contain post-game spoilers, so if you do not want to see any of the post-game spoilers, then, well, I don't know what to do, but you're obligated to watch the video, so... Number 5, the Walk-In Challenge. This is a post-game objective that appears in a few kingdoms. Toss the Rana as no kingdom, for example. The toads will show you a pattern to get to walk, thus memorizing where the pattern is on the ground and getting an adequate score to retrieve the moon. The toads has 2 Power Moons. On the second attempt, you need a higher score to get the Power Moon, of course. Look, this isn't the hardest objective by any means, but memorizing a walking pattern feels a bit lackluster and doesn't fit the tone. I mean, most of the other Power Moons, post-game at least, opened up more depth to it, like boss rush, boss battles, more platforming levels, etc. You know, just walking in a circle or whatever. I mean, I should be glad Nintendo didn't go savage on us and just try and make us walk like a hexagon shape or a isosceles triangle. You know what they say, if you can't talk the talk, then walk the walk, and in this case, walk it in a circle for a moon, yay! Number 4, HD Rumble Vibrator. So you go into a room and ground pound a spot that vibrates the most, but the problem is that the radius is small, so you can miss it by a bit, meaning you could be ground pounding near the radius and still miss the Power Moon. But more importantly, I have to ground pound based on vibrations to get a bloody moon. Sounds like this was made to give Nintendo more ways to integrate HD Rumble. Look, I know there are over 800 moons. Some of the objectives will be duds. I understand that. There's so many different varieties Nintendo has created for this game. But that is the design choice that Nintendo has picked, so they kind of have to face the consequences when they don't deliver on every single moon event, because it is difficult, you know, but ground pounding based on vibrations. Number 3, memorizing picture. This one, what was Koizumi thinking? In this one you play a sick game with Toad, not sick and cool, sick as in sick-minded. That Toad is a narcissist, you hear me? A narcissist! In this game you see a picture of Mario or Gooba, for example, and then you have to arrange it the way that it was by possessing the objects like the mustache, eyebrows, etc. This was just not fun. At least with the walking one, it wasn't frustrating. Put in the correct angle and position. The worst part was, you could have everything perfect, but if the eyes weren't rotated properly, you would lose 40 points, I believe. And by the shape, you know what I mean? It could look very similar on the rotation, even though it may not be correct. Look, I hope I'm spreading misinformation so I can convince everyone to hate this level, which validates me and makes me feel better. But this part of the game was post-game content, and I have to grind through this and not have fun because it's so trivial, you know? The worst part is, if you did not get the above points threshold, you can't just ask to retry it. You have to leave the level, then come back. Like, come on, what a waste of precious seconds. I don't know how long it would take to go back and forth. It wouldn't be long, but if you keep failing, it'll get really repetitive and frustrating. Number 2, the Brutals. The Brutals are number 2 on this list because they're brutal. Come on, there's a reason Nintendo named them that. Look, I'm glad Nini didn't just insert the Koopa Kids or had generic typical Mario enemies as these overlords. For the most part, the boss fights are lacking. I felt the bosses of this game were very strong, where you possess a creature and have to beat them with the creature's power. It was very interesting, gave you a new perspective on how to play, and it was very fresh. When you face the Brutals, you're facing them mostly as Mario, but it just felt too easy because Their weak points are obvious, their head. I also felt like their dialogue was primitive. They each were meant to have their own characteristic, but wasn't shown enough to appreciate it. And don't get me started on their mother. Ew. The worst part is, normally when something goes poof, they're dead. Gonzo. In this case, when the Brutos go poof, they come back again and again. This isn't logic. Do you understand me? When you go poof, you're gone. You can't come back, especially since you're not a cat. You don't have 9 lives. Maybe their father was a cat, I don't know, but that information wasn't present. So I am making assumptions. Number 1. The grand finale. The worst aspect of Super Mario Odyssey, in my opinion, bounding. Why would Nintendo do this to us? This was pure torture. Agonizing. Playing as a bloody Yeti? These bound races were not fun. They were pure frustration. How is humping snow fun? I live in Canada, I would know. The thing with Super Mario Odyssey is that you only need 200 moons, I believe, to get the opportunity to beat the game, facing Bowser, right, the campaign. But there are over 800 opportunities to get moons, so many events are optional to do. So if you do not like the event or have a tough time beating a specific event, you can skip it and do another moon. Do another event to get more moons. But you can skip this one. Look, I promised myself I wouldn't swear in this, so I won't. One day, yes. When I first saw this, I thought it was just a generic rolling track for racing, you know, like press A to get speed boost, etc. There's no like bouncing around like a marble ball, you know what I mean? So I was excited to try it, and then when I found out it was bound racing, well, it takes a bit of a learning curve because it's very easy to fall out of bounds. The momentum, you lose it all when you fall out of bounds. Look, I'm sure many people won't agree with my list, but I think you can agree that bound racing was one of the most frustrating aspects of the game, excluding the dark side and the darker side of the moon. So obviously, once I was able to finally beat this, I got the heck out of Snow Kingdom because I had too much bitterness towards those Yetis for creating this event. You don't create that and have fun doing it, you know what I mean? They're not having fun, they're torturing themselves. I just felt like with this game, they wanted to keep the main campaign accessible to all ages, and I felt this was a roadblock for that narrative, because of the learning curve like I mentioned. Obviously, my list for the most part are minor complaints that I personally do not enjoy. But like I said, those are minor and does not impact the game overall for me in a negative manner. I love the game, and I will replay it a lot. I would love to hear what you guys loved and hated about Super Mario Odyssey.